Today on Screener to Stream It, vengeance is mine.
No, it's not. It's Bruce Willis's.
Yeah, what he said. Death Wish is rated R for strong bloody violence and language throughout. Directed by Eli Roth and starring Bruce Willis, Death Wish is the story of Paul Kersey, a trauma surgeon living in Chicago.
It begins with Dr. Kersey's family preparing to send their daughter off to college. Everything changes, however, one night when the doctor is called into work when the family had planned to be out to dinner.
The wife and daughter return home early and interrupt a burglary in progress. Things take a nasty turn and the family is gunned down. They're rushed to the hospital, but the daughter ends up in a coma and the wife succumbs to her injuries.
The police immediately jump on the case, but an indeterminate amount of time passes, seemingly weeks or months, with no developments on the case at all. Meanwhile, Dr. Kersey is unable to sleep and having difficulty just dealing with the loss of his family.
The doctor considers buying a gun and taking matters into his own hands, but he is aware that the ballistics can be traced back to him. Fate intervenes, however, when another random patient in the hospital drops a gun.
The doctor takes it and begins practicing his marksmanship. By chance one evening, Dr. Kersey encounters a carjacking in progress. He yells at the carjackers, who start shooting at him. A brief firefight ensues, leaving the carjackers wounded.
Things get really dark when the doctor shoots the wounded men to kill them. That action sets off a chain of vigilante killings by the doctor that the people of Chicago become quite divided on, whether he's really a hero or just part of the larger problem.
So, we've got Bruce Willis. Quite a lot of action. What are we going to rate this one?
We're going to give it 3 stars. So, Death Wish was originally a book written in 1972, same name, Death Wish. Then later in 1974 made into a movie starring Charles Bronson, and now remade in 2018 starring Bruce Willis.
Well, you didn't count all the sequels and spin-offs. I'm sure there were spin-offs too.
There was actually 5 versions of the original Death Wish. That would be, 4 sequels?
That's a lot of sequels.
And this is basically a reboot. If you read the book, one of the main differences was that the main character, Paul Kersey, he tends to, through the 3 of them, tends to change occupations. I do remember Charlie Bronson was an architect, and this one, Paul Kersey, is a doctor. And really, to me, the big difference is how you feel about the characters. And the book, Paul Kersey starts off as a sympathetic character. His wife is killed, and he's trying to get vengeance for it, and you really feel for him. But he goes kind of crazy, and he goes on this vengeance spree, and he actually becomes a bad guy by the end. He's one of these bad guys. In the original Charles Bronson one, I guess that's not the original, the book would be the original. In the first movie, the Charlie Bronson movie, he's kind of a good guy all the way throughout. He is very nice man. Bad things happen to him, and he goes out and tries to correct those wrongs. This one, I feel like Bruce Willis kind of fell somewhere in between those two for me. He started off as a pretty nice man. There was a scene in the hospital when the cop gets shot that I didn't quite understand what
right at the beginning?
Right at the beginning.
He was so impassive. And he just, no emotion at all. But, I mean, he's a trauma surgeon, so he sees a lot of dead people, I'm sure, and dying people, so... Yeah.
So that happens.
It makes sense. It's just kind of weird.
But I'm not sure why they showed us that. I'm not sure how we were supposed to feel about the doctor at that point. But he does go on, and he is a man that's tried to live his life correctly. He went to school, he raised a family. He's a very nice man, very nice to his kids. Yeah. We even have a couple of scenes that show him where he had opportunities to be an angry man or a violent man, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Then, the bad stuff happens. The wife dies. The daughter ends up in a coma. And he goes on this... Well, it starts off as vengeance, but he kind of goes off on a path of... I'm just going to take down all the bad guys, whether they're bad guys to me or not.
Which at first it was kind of misdirected rage because he couldn't find the guys that had done the actual wrong to him. So he just prepared himself and kind of started patrolling the streets a little bit. And... by chance ran into that first carjacking and decided, well, once he'd crossed that line, it was kind of, let's do this.
But we get little glimpses of him enjoying. He does when the carjacking happens. He shoots the guys, and that could have been it. They were down, they were out.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He like executes them. And
Which for a doctor to do that, I'm surprised they didn't play that up more. Because a doctor, their whole thing is do no harm. That's their thing. And he is straight up, yeah, they were already defeated. He killed them anyway.
but then he comes back and he does some nice things and he does some bad things. So he kind of tiptoed on that. Like, I don't really know. I think by the end he ends up being a nice guy again. Like, it's okay. He's gotten his vengeance and he's done.
Yeah.
Even in the Charlie Bronson where he is a very nice guy, in the end he ends up moving, I think, to Arizona, somewhere in the South. And well, obviously there's at least four sequels, so he continues the
murderous rampage.
So a lot of my feeling about this movie is I'm confused.
Yeah.
Like I'm confused about things because I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about the Doctor. I don't really know how I feel about the show. I gave it 3 stars.
Yeah. I think we all did. We were pretty even across the board.
Yeah, pretty much consensus on that. But, and I think I figured out what it was. When we walked out of the theater, I said that the movie was not gritty and grimy enough to be a B movie. It's not a grindhouse type action flick.
It wasn't exactly buckets of blood and entrails, though there was a bit of blood and there were some entrails.
And some of it was actually a little bit over the top, even for, I mean,
Couple
it was very grindhousey
Couple of
type
spots,
thing.
yeah.
But then you go, so it's not really a B movie. But it's also not this super glossy, giant Hollywood blockbustery type thing. And so it's not an A movie, and I don't know where that puts it. And so I didn't know how to feel about it. Because I almost, if it was a B movie, it was done to higher standards. If it was an A movie, it was done to lower standards.
Kind of in the middle,
It's kind of like a B plus movie. And I don't know how that made me feel. But then I realized what it was. For me.
Yeah.
Is that it's a crime drama, action-y movie, but it's predominantly a crime drama.
Yeah.
And those are not my movies. Like, I just never, it was never my thing. I never really loved crime dramas. And
no Maltese Falcon?
No, I don't know why. It doesn't do it for me. But I think that's why I didn't walk out of this thing just raving, because I really couldn't pinpoint something and point and go, this was bad. Now, there's a couple of things that I was like, but there was nothing I was like, oh man, that made this movie drop down for me. So I was like, why did I only give it, 3? Why wasn't it a 4 or 5? But I really think it's just not my genre of movie.
I don't know. I mean, I like a crime drama quite a lot, but I don't know. For me, there were a few things that just fell a little, like, okay, they had character development moments, which is great. I love that they spent the time to do that.
Would you say that the first of the movie's slow?
Yes.
But it's a good slow because they are character developing and they're trying to make you feel for the characters and stuff, which is good.
Not with the obvious, oh, this is you. It flowed very naturally at the beginning of the movie, especially. As it got in, though, I felt like just the character development for Bruce Willis it didn't feel right. Like, the action stuff felt very much like a Bruce Willis movie. Like, you know what you signed up for. That was in the trailers. Did a good job on preparing me for this one. I got exactly what I expected as far as the action. The downtime between the action, though, I don't know. It just felt a little not quite there, and I'm not sure if it was. I don't know. It didn't feel right, opposed to what else was going on. The action was great, but that was kind of the only real draw for me.
Well, like I said, that's kind of my general overall feeling of this movie. Is it just wasn't quite spot on.
Yeah.
When it went violent, it went like super violent and brain splattery.
The gunshots were super loud and it was fast and fun. Fun to watch. It would not be fun to experience, but for a spectator, it's kind of fun.
But that didn't really seem to fit in with the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. You have the Doctor's life, and maybe that's a good thing because the Doctor's life is. Everything is super clean and pristine, and he's got this nice, fancy house and fancy car, and everything is great. And then you've got the criminals, and the criminals are the down and the dirty, and you kind of get that clash of the two. The criminals come to his house and they don't really fit in, and then he ends up, chasing them down and going to their places, and he doesn't really fit in. So I guess that's probably actually a good thematic thing, but it also feels kind of jarring that they're so different.
Well, there were a couple things that bothered me beyond that, and just in the writing. So this guy's a doctor, very well off, trauma surgeon, Chicago. That's got to pay pretty well. He's got a big, nice house. No alarm?
No, he did.
I'm pretty sure I saw one on the wall.
Yeah, there's one on the wall. Doesn't go off. Doesn't alert anybody.
It wasn't even shown, talked about, mentioned in any way in the movie. So I was left wondering, well, did they disable the alarm? Like, did they not set the alarm? I don't know.
There was literally a point in the movie, so well after the...
I know, I saw it on the wall. I saw the
Yeah,
panel.
well after the attack, and I was thinking, you got that really fancy house. How convenient he didn't have an alarm. Well, there's a scene later where Vincent D'Onofrio plays his brother, and his brother comes to see him, and he's not there, and he just goes in the house looking for him, and he opens the door and just walks in, and again, no alarm goes off.
Yeah.
And you're right, he walks right past it. It is on the wall glowing, and I thought, if somebody had broken in, if I didn't have an alarm in the first place, if somebody had broken into my house and shot my family, I dang sure would have one, later. But
well, and the only thing I could offer as a possible excuse for that, maybe it was a thermostat. I don't know.
But again, like you said, very, very fancy house.
That brings me to number 2. So, when the break-in happened, of course, it was discovered in progress. The window was open, which was a really great reveal. Sorry for spoiler alert. I'll put that.
No, are you going to talk about
the window?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, the window. So the wife gets home. The window's open. That's weird. So she goes and closes it and then locks it. The window wasn't broken. How did they get it open? If that's where they came in, had it been left unlocked? Had someone been in the house and unlocked it for them so they could come later and get in? It's never explained. It's never talked about. I don't know. It makes no sense. But yeah, so that happened.
I thought that too, because it had the little double, the slide lock.
Yeah, she closed it and locked it. And no explanation. I was waiting for something. See, I kept thinking someone else, there had to be an insider, someone who'd been in the house maybe, but it was never mentioned whether or not. So you got me, I don't know. So that bugged me. Those 2 things probably bugged me more than anything else.
Really?
I feel like there was one more thing, but I lost it now.
I had 2 things that bugged me.
But that window that bothered me the more I thought about it.
One of them is a really dinky thing, and one of them's a really big thing. So one thing, so I'm trying to remember the dude's name. It was Dean Norris plays the investigator. He's the murder investigator.
That was the other one. Go ahead.
Okay. But the dude plays, I looked him up on IMDb because when I saw him, I was like, man, that guy's familiar. Like, he has that face. I know the face. And he was in Breaking Bad. He was in Big Bang Theory. But it was hilarious going through.
Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, he plays. Oh, it's in the newer season.
Yeah, I haven't been caught up.
But he plays a military man that's they're building something for them.
He'd be good at that.
Literally every credit to
police
his name.
Police officer,
yeah. Colonel, sergeant, captain, and every one of them.
He's just got those sharp features.
He does have that face. It fits him very well.
It works.
But he plays the head investigator, and I thought he did a good job in the role.
Yeah, that's fine.
But there is that typical action movie scene where him and his partner are in the office, and the captain comes in and chews him a new one for not doing their job or not getting the case solved. And so first of all, that was very, you could have just copied and pasted that from any police movie in the last 30, 40 years.
We had not seen the captain at all.
That's the only scene he's in.
In fact, yeah, before or after, that was it.
No.
He just there to chew him out.
But man, that guy did a horrible job of acting in that. I'm not, I'm not an actor, so I can't go back. But man, he was.
Yeah.
It sounded like he was reading lines, and but it was so bad compared to everybody else that it just stood out. And I thought, really, he said 3 lines. He was in the movie for 30 seconds. We couldn't have found somebody better.
Not sure
I thought of Wayne's.
How I missed that. I guess it was so comforting that I've seen that so many times that it just kind of. Like getting a hug.
Was it Wayne's World 2, where he goes into the gas station and he's talking to the old man and the guy's reading him his lines and he's like, really? This is the best we do? We can't get an actor better than this? They just take him out and put Charlton Heston in and he rereads the same lines. I felt like that when I was watching. Really? Funny. We couldn't do just a little bitty part. We couldn't got somebody to read the lines correctly. And I don't know, the guy, that it just stood out very glaring to me, and I didn't like that. What was your other thing before I get to mine?
So my other thing was, and it's not even a spoiler because nothing ever came of it, the wristwatch. One of the things that was stolen was Dr. Kersey's wristwatch that he had just gotten for his birthday. It was a giant black thing, was this big around, it was huge. And the guy that ended up with it, I don't remember, well, anyway, it's not important. The guy that ended up with it had been in the hospital and died from injuries. And again, that's not even really important to the story, except that it gave him a clue as to how to find the guys involved, because the guy had his watch and he recognized it, so he took his watch back. And then he's wearing the watch later. Now, again, not really a spoiler, he's left-handed. The police were looking for a left-handed man. They already knew this. So they're sitting there and talking to him, and he's got the watch on his right wrist, which is where left-handed people wear it usually. Big as life, the stolen watch that they had described to that policeman, and he did not notice. He was looking right at it for like 10 minutes, did not notice. That bothered me. How good of an investigator could he be if that did not even come on his radar?
So I didn't even notice that. So Bruce,
I was waiting for him to notice.
at some point in the movie, Bruce Willis gets his hand cut by the slide of the gun.
Yeah.
And someone was videotaping it so they know it happened. So they're looking for a man with a cut. So anytime he talks to anybody, Bruce Willis very awkwardly sticks his hand in his pocket.
Yeah, he
and
keeps it
stands.
hidden.
Well, so there's a scene with the police and they're handing him stuff, and he's got this hand underneath the desk, and he's
right-handed,
just doing this, and he's a left-handed man.
Yeah,
And
with
it
the
was
watch too. So
yeah, it was so weird and so awkward. All right, my biggest thing,
okay.
and I think,
I'm done. So
and I'm totally not this type of person.
I mean, I liked it. It's fun.
It was fun, and I said it too. If it came on TV,
Yeah, I'd watch it again.
And again, I don't think I would pay to go see it again.
Yeah.
But if it was on Netflix or something, this would be a very good,
Yeah, it's
I've
fun.
been very happy I watched it. All right, I'm not this type of person. This is not me at all. Like, not political or anything like that. But the book was written in 1972. Charles Bronson movie came out in 1974. So they were very close together.
Sure.
All right, it's 2018. It is a drastically different America that we live in right now.
Yeah.
And it tried to tell the same story, roughly. Same major beats anyways.
Yes.
Some of the things just felt out of place to me, especially with all the stuff we have going on with, school shootings and terrorist attacks and all this. And because, again, this is not my type of movie, but you go watch a fantasy movie and, there's a guy in a big suit shooting people or dressed as a, monster and he's blowing things up.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. But this movie is grounded in such, like it's grounded in reality. It's just a real dude, and they do a good job of not making him grandiose.
Yeah.
He's just a dude.
Yeah.
And he's just executing people on the street. And I don't know, it just doesn't sit very well with me anymore. Where if it was 1974, I probably would have been like, yeah, get him, get him. But I don't know, the vigilante justice, and I hate to say that, totally not me, because I am the get him, shoot him, yay. But it just, I don't know, it just seemed a little bit out of place and like ill-timed, I guess. I don't know, and that did not sit right with me. So, yeah.
Well, since that didn't sit right with you, what do you have for a streaming option?
Well, like I said, I didn't hate the movie, gave it 3 stars. If I had seen it on Netflix, it would have probably been 4 stars. But I had to pay for it, so it was 3 stars. And I kind of went back and forth on a bunch of stuff, and then I realized not a crime drama guy. So my recommendation is the closest I could get without being a crime drama.
That's fair.
And so mine is actually a action sci-fi-ish movie.
You have my
And,
attention.
So I'm going with Mad Max.
Hey!
So 1979 R-rated action sci-fi movie. And basically stars Mel Gibson as Max Rockatansky, which I cannot say very fast, don't ask. Rockatansky. But anyways, Max goes and he's a cop in Australia in the not too distant future. And just like in Death Wish, his family ends up getting killed by a gang of thugs. He goes on a trip for vengeance to take them out.
Glorious trip of vengeance.
Beyond that, there's probably not a lot of parallels in there, but that's the core theme of Death Wish, and it's the core theme of Mad Max.
Yeah.
Somebody killed my family, I'm going to come get them. Bruce Willis is, a vigilante with a gun. Max is a vigilante with a car.
A hot rod, and they blow up cars. It's great.
Now, Mad Max is one of those, like, it is a classic. It is one of those, like, you must see it movies as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, it's Mel Gibson's first film role.
Yeah.
So really weird to see really young Mel Gibson. but it is a great movie. It is one of, I think I actually like Road Warrior a little bit better, which is the sequel, but that doesn't fit with our Death Wish here. But yeah, Mad Max, I think, for my money, much better movie. So if you don't want to go to the theaters, want to stay home, I'd watch Mad Max instead.
All right. Well, I have a surprisingly good fit. I was amazed how close it was. I'm going with the 2007 The Brave One, starring Jodie Foster.
I don't think I've seen that.
It is about a lady who lives in New York and with her dog, and I don't remember if he's a husband or live-in boyfriend. I forget. I actually own this movie. It's on my shelf, so I'll show it to you later. And they're walking late at night in Central Park, and the dog gets abducted, and the couple gets attacked, and the husband dies, and she wakes up from a coma like 3 weeks later or something, and basically is just psychologically traumatized, and so traumatized that she goes and buys a gun to defend herself. And I think she has to buy it from somewhere illegal, which is kind of shady because New York's kind of clamps down about that sort of thing. Anyway, she learns to shoot, and that makes her feel better, but she's still pretty traumatized. And then fate intervenes, and she witnesses a murder in a convenience store. And then her cell phone rings. So the murderer is looking for her now in this store, and she ends up shooting him dead. And that's the thing that starts her on her vengeance spree. And it ends up almost the same kind of thing. She ends up murdering a bunch of bad people and eventually finding the people that did her wrong and getting her dog back, you know. Spoiler alert. Anyway, it's a lot more, I guess, grounded than was Death Wish. Like, it's more serious and deals with the psychological trauma a lot more. So that's kind of hit or miss. Audiences didn't like it that much. I mean, it was kind of well received, but not great. But that's all our time. So thank you so much for watching Screen It or Stream It.
And remember, don't take your kids to the movies on Tuesday nights because that's when we go.